So Ms. Smith says, I am upset that my son's entire class lost 2 days of recess because some, and what does some mean, Gina?
More than one.
At least one. At least one.
One.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. Because at least one of the children were throwing raisins in the cafeteria. He was not throwing raisins, and it was clear to everyone just who the culprits were. So what is our conclusion here, Allison?
Let's see. That he was not throwing raisins.
Yeah, and it was clear
yeah.
to everyone who the culprits were. Excellent. And then the principal responds and says, I'm sorry you're upset, Miss Smith, but your son's situation is like being caught in a traffic jam caused by an accident. I read this and I'm like, what is that? I stopped here for a second and thought about like, what is the analogy here? I'm like, I'm not seeing the analogy. So then I went on. People who aren't involved in the accident nevertheless have to suffer by sitting there in the middle of it. So my issue, I have so many flaws with this. I was like, yeah, but like, there's not something, and like in an accident, there's not something else that like someone else doesn't have the power to just automatically fix it for you. Where I feel like in the cafeteria, the principal has the power to fix that, but whatever. Moving on, I have to accept as what's going on. And so then our question says, if the principal is speaking sincerely, then it can be, what does inferred mean, Tatiana?
Like taken as true.
Yep, taken as true. Conclude. But yeah, taken as true. Excellent. It can be concluded from what the principal says that the principal believes that. So did anybody make a prediction here before they went into the answer choices? Like, what does the principal believe?
That punishing everyone, the incident's not going to happen again.
Does he believe that though?
No.
No, it's too strong, right? Because he says, I'm sorry you're upset, but your son's situation is like being caught in a traffic jam caused by an accident. So he's comparing those two things. And then he says people who aren't involved in the accident have to suffer by being there in the middle of it. So what must he think is true of these students that weren't involved in the throwing of raisins?
I thought of it as that even though he might not have done it, he was in the situation, so
he has to suffer.
He's still guilty. Yeah, like my mom used to say that.
Yeah, even if which I feel like it's entire class. There's issues, but he's saying like, even though the entire class was not throwing raisins, everybody that was in that cafeteria has to suffer, which is stupid, but whatever. Moving on. All right, so A says many children were throwing raisins in the cafeteria. What does many mean, Sean?
More than half.
Actually, most means more than half. So most starts with MO. So that's more than 50%. Many just means more than one. Many, and I always say many means many things we don't really know. So many could be like 3, right? Like what is many? But do we know that the principal believes many children were throwing raisins in the cafeteria? No, he's not alluding to that. So we can cross that off. Let's go down to E. A lot of people picked E. Why is E incorrect? What do you think, Atusa?
I didn't really see anything about recess deterring future disruptions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good idea, but
we would assume that's what his goal is, right? Common sense world wants us to think we're going to assume that. But if in our analogy, he would have to say something that like having to sit in the middle of a traffic accident will deter future accidents. And we don't say anything like that, right? Like that has nothing to do with our analogy. All right. What do you think about D, Giovanna?
It didn't, D says Ms. Smith's son knows who threw that wasn't her argument.
Right. And we're looking for what the principal believes. We don't know.
Right. And so the principal didn't ask the principal gave his or her explanation as to why she did what she did. She didn't say, well, your son knew he should have told. That wasn't brought
Yeah,
up.
nothing. We don't know at all. Excellent.
Right.
All right. So, and then, I thought C was really easy to cross off. Did everybody else agree with that? After an accident, the resulting traffic jams are generally caused by police activity. We don't know that. So then why is B the correct answer, Allison, where it says Mrs. Sons might not have thrown raisins in the cafeteria?
So I chose B because basically what the principal is saying is that even, let's say your son wasn't the culprit, everyone has to suffer the consequences.
Yes. So he knows that not everybody probably threw them. And so, and I like this one because it also includes that he believes that there's a chance, like might not. It doesn't say that he believes that Mrs. Sons for sure did it. He just believes that there's a, like Mrs. Sons might not have done it. Absolutely. And so that's why B's our answer.